A surgeon amputated his own legs with dry ice just to scam his insurance company out of £500,000.
Congratulations, you played yourself.
Instead of maybe picking up a scratch off ticket or, I don't know, gamble like a normal person, he just decided, yeah, let me cut off both of my legs and collect some insurance money. And the wildest part, he was actually a vascular surgeon, so he knew how to destroy his body in the most efficient way possible and to make it seem the most realistic. And as if this wasn't the most unhinged information already, he didn't just do this for the cash. Investigators later discovered that he was messaging people on a fetish website and was obsessed with amputations, even getting advice on how to properly freeze off your legs. So not only is this fraud, it's fraud with the most disturbing plot twist ever. Before we get too deep into this crazy story, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It helps me and it helps the channel. Meet Dr. Neil Hopper. 49 years old, a very trusted consultant vascular surgeon in the UK.
This 49-year-old vascular surgeon was once named the bravest in Britain after being dealt a reportedly devastating medical diagnosis and forced to amputate both of his legs.
This is the kind of doctor that patients trust with their lives. And on paper, he looked like the last type of person to try and do this. But behind the scenes, he was planning the most outrageous insurance scam that NHS has ever seen. So how does somebody go from wanting to save other people's legs to wanting to chop off his own for a payout? We're going to talk about how this nightmare actually unfolded because the details are insane. How he set this up is he bought dry ice, he filled his tub, and he sat his legs in there for hours. Now, the average person uses dry ice for spooky Halloween decorations, some cool science experiments, and keeping food cold. But this guy wanted it for insurance fraud. And because he was a surgeon, he knew exactly what he was doing and that the damage would be irreversible. The tissue damage was so severe, the doctors had no other choice but to amputate both of his legs below the knee.
This is a new one for me. I've just been discharged from hospital and I was admitted unwell with sepsis of unknown cause, but there were some complications of my hospital treatment and I lost both my legs below the knees.
Hopper told colleagues and insurance that the cause was sepsis, a serious infection, which on the surface sounds tragic, but in reality, he manufactured it himself. Then came the cash grab.
But now the once celebrated surgeon from Cornwall, who performed hundreds of amputation operations of his own, is being hit with fraud charges about why his own legs needed to be chopped off after submitting 2 insurance claims totaling a whopping $680,000.
He filed insurance claims with Aviva and Old Mutual Wealth, saying his amputations were due to illness. What he didn't mention is that he dunked his legs into a DIY cryo chamber like a bootleg Mr. Freeze. And the companies actually paid him nearly £467,000, and that is close to 600,000 American. Not a bad payday if you ignore the part that you don't have legs anymore.
According to investigators, Hopper falsely represented to insurers that his leg amputations were due to sepsis and were not self-inflicted. It has not yet been revealed publicly whether investigators believe he gave himself sepsis on purpose, that he did not actually need to have his legs removed, or something else entirely.
And here is where it gets even darker. Hopper wasn't just chasing money. He had been paying to access a website called Unch Maker. He had been paying to access a site called Unch Maker, EUNUCH Maker, Unch Maker, I don't know. On that website, he talked to the site owner in detail how to freeze your legs off until they become unsalvageable. Imagine you are so obsessed in deep on a fetish that your search history becomes Exhibit A. So how did he get caught? Not because insurance found out. It was because there were already investigators investigating this fetish website, and then they found Hopper's messages.
But that's not all. In another disturbing charge, investigators found that between 2018 and 2020, Hopper bought 3 videos from a now defunct website called The Eunuch Maker, an extreme body modification website which showcased disturbing mutilation live streams. Hopper is accused of encouraging the website's creator, Marius Gustafson, to remove people's body parts. Gustafson is currently serving 22 years to life in prison for several offenses including grievous bodily harm with intent. Gustafson made over $400,000 by showing his website's roughly 22,000 subscribers gruesome videos of him mutilating the bodies of apparently willing volunteers.
Combined with his history of dry ice purchases and his sudden sepsis amputations, it started to look a lot like I did it to myself. In court, Hopper pled guilty to fraud and possession of extreme pornographic photos. And get this, he was sentenced to only 32 months in prison. Not even 3 years for a very extreme case of insurance fraud and self-mutilation.
A spokesman for the hospital group which employed Hopper said the surgeon was suspended in March of 2023 and that there was no evidence that any of his patients were at risk. According to the Times UK, Hopper didn't enter any pleas to the 3 charges lodged at him and reportedly shed a tear before being led to his cell by court officers.
And this is why people think they can get away with dumb shit and the consequences don't really matter because, okay, he got over $500,000 and all he had to do was sit 2 years in prison. His medical career, toast, imploded, doesn't exist anymore. Once patients learned that he had this crazy fetish of self-amputation, the trust never came back. And it shouldn't. Imagine talking to your doctor like, doc, this bypass is safe, right? And you know in the back of your head that his side hobby is cutting himself up. Why wouldn't he chop you up? And thankfully, the insurance companies are clawing back the money. And his wife filed for divorce because apparently hiding a extreme fetish and committing a 6-figure insurance fraud isn't the recipe for a happy marriage. Who would have thought? Which means no money, no career, no wife, no house. Oh yeah, and no legs. That's not just an L. That's an entire alphabet worth of L's. And patients were rattled. They were scared. They were questioning if they could trust their previous surgeries. This wasn't just self-destruction. It eroded the faith in an entire system. Now people are questioning their surgeons because they're like, what if they're these freaks with super fetishes on some crazy corner of the internet and they're just gonna chop me up? And it was all because this guy wanted to get some cash and clout on a weird corner of the internet. It's one thing to scam the insurance company. People try that all the time. But to permanently mutilate yourself in the process is weird and you need you need a lot of help. This level of commitment isn't giving criminal mastermind. It's giving more Darwin Award finalists. And I think that's what makes the story more disturbing. It wasn't all just about the greed. It was about the obsession, the fetish, the self-destruction. And when you mix all of this with somebody who has the knowledge to perform whatever needs to be done, like a surgeon, you get the perfect storm. He destroyed his career, his marriage, his finances, and his body. And for what? A pile of cash he didn't even get to keep. So yeah, a surgeon amputates his own legs, ends up with no money, no house, no wife, and no legs. What do you guys think? Is 32 months enough time for this type of crime? Or should he have been hit with way more? And if you enjoyed it and made it this far, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It helps me and it helps the channel. And I'll see you for the next video. Bye, guys.